Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is Monday, February 9th, 2026. And if you're a regular listener, you know we usually tackle tech trends, history.
Some dense scientific paper.
Exactly. But today we are shifting gears. We are jumping straight into a special edition we're calling Zion Recap.
That's right. We were taking a detailed look at the sermon delivered just yesterday, February 8th, at Zion CC by Pastor Roy. And honestly, looking at the transcript and the note here, this isn't your standard Sunday recap.
No, it really isn't. The message was titled, The Evidence of Faith, Prayer Over Pride. And look, I'll be honest with you, and I think I speak for a lot of people here. When I see a title about prayer, my brain kind of goes into autopilot.
Oh, for sure.
I think, okay, I know the drill. I need to do it more. I'm busy. I feel guilty. Yeah. Let's just move on.
It's the classic guilt trip topic, right? It feels like eating your vegetables. You know you should, but you don't really want to hear a lecture about it.
Exactly. Yeah. But Pastor Roy threw out a hook right at the beginning that honestly kind of stung. He basically dismantled that whole I'm too busy excuse in about 30 seconds.
He did. He argues that the reason we don't pray isn't actually because of our schedules, our work, or, our distractions. He identifies the root cause as something much deeper and, much more uncomfortable. Pride.
Which is a heavy way to start a Monday morning, but stick with us because the way he gets there is fascinating. We are talking about a sermon that weaves together deep theology, a virtual tour of the Louvre Museum, and, my personal favorite, a history lesson on the early days of the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
It's an eclectic mix, to say the least. But the mission for this deep dive is to unpack how those things connect. We want to move past the how-to of prayer and really look at the why.
Yeah, why do we avoid it? And how does understanding mixed martial arts actually help us pray better?
I never thought I'd hear those two in the same sentence, but it works.
It totally works. So let's start with the diagnosis. Pastor Roy opened with this concept of the accessory fallacy.
Right. So think about how we treat accessories in fashion. A scarf, a watch, a hat. They're optional.
Right.
They might make the outfit look better or express your personality, but if you leave the house without them, you're still fully dressed. You're still you.
And the argument is that we treat prayer the same way. It's an add-on for the spiritual super users. Like, I believe in God, but I'm not the type who, needs to pray every day.
Exactly. But the source material hits us with a really stark definition right out of the gate. It says, prayer is the evidence of your faith.
Evidence of faith. That sounds almost legal, like a courtroom term.
It is. It suggests that faith isn't just an internal feeling. It has external proof. If you claim to trust God, the evidence of that trust is that you talk to him. You lean on him. And conversely, and this is the part that stings, if you don't pray, the implication is that you don't actually trust him.
It's that binary. You either rely on him or you don't.
Precisely. To illustrate this, Pastor Roy used a parenting analogy that I think everyone, parent or not, can just feel in their gut.
Oh yeah, this was effective. He said, imagine a father who claims to love his children. He tells everyone, I love my kids. But he never speaks to them. He never protects them. He never takes them to their dance recitals or soccer games. He just ignores their existence.
And the question he poses is, does that man actually love his children?
And the obvious answer is no. You can say it all you want, but the actions, the fruit, tell a different story.
That's the biblical principle at play here. The Bible judges the fruit, not the intention. You can intend to be a faithful person, but if there's no communication, no relationship, the claim falls flat.
So neglecting prayer is spiritual neglect.
Exactly.
So if we strip away the I'm busy excuse, because let's face it, we make time for things we actually value.
And we make time for what we depend on.
Right. So if we aren't praying, what is really going on?
This brings us back to that diagnosis of pride. The sermon explicitly defines not praying as a form of self-sufficiency. And in the biblical worldview, self-sufficiency is, it's a nice way of saying, I am God.
Oof. I am God. That feels like a leap, doesn't it? I mean, I don't walk around thinking I'm a deity. I just think I can handle my own schedule.
But that's the trap. When you say I can handle this situation without consulting God, you are essentially saying my power, my wisdom, my resources are sufficient. You are declaring independence, and independence from God is the definition of pride.
It's that I've got this mentality.
Exactly. And Pastor Roy labels that self-sufficiency as sin. It's an admission that we think we can control outcomes.
Okay, I want to pause on a nuance here because I think this is where people get tripped up. If we are supposed to rely on God, does that mean we just sit on the couch and wait for divine intervention? Because, I mean, I've got bills to pay.
That is a vital distinction, and the sermon addresses it directly. Pastor Roy references a passage that talks about making every effort. He lists things like virtue, knowledge, self-control, steadfastness.
So effort isn't the enemy.
No, not at all. Effort is biblical. God gave you a brain. He gave you talents. He gave you the ability to plan and work. You are supposed to use those. The problem isn't working hard. The problem is self-reliance. It's working hard while thinking you are the source of your own success.
I see. So you work like it depends on you.
But you pray like it depends on God.
That's the classic adage.
The sermon puts it this way. You strive, you plan, you execute. But you do it all while in constant communication with the one who actually holds the outcome.
Okay, so we've established that avoiding prayer is pride. Now we need to talk about the cure, which is humility. And this is where we take a field trip to Paris.
To the Louvre.
The Mona Lisa. I love this analogy because I think I've been guilty of this specific misunderstanding of humility. I always thought being humble meant thinking less of yourself, walking around saying, oh, I'm not that good, I'm actually kind of terrible.
The aw shucks mentality. We see it all the time. People deflect compliments because they think agreeing with them is arrogant.
Right, but Pastor Roy shut that down completely.
He did. He told the story of standing in front of the Mona Lisa, arguably the most famous painting on Earth. Now imagine you are standing there and you say, I don't get it. It's ugly. It's just a smear of paint.
Who are you offending in that moment?
You aren't hurting the painting's feelings. It's wood and oil. You are offending the painter, Leonardo da Vinci. You are questioning his skill, his vision, his mastery.
That is such a powerful reframing. When we look in the mirror and say, I'm ugly, or we look at our talents and say, I have nothing to offer, we aren't being humble. We are criticizing God's artwork.
We are trashing the Creator's design. That isn't humility. That's actually a reverse form of pride. It's judging God's work and finding it lacking.
So what is the actual definition of humility then? If it's not self-deprecation, what is it?
The definition from the sermon is that humility is living in truth. It is having a correct estimation of oneself.
A correct estimation.
Right. It's seeing reality clearly. If you are good at math, the humble thing is to admit, I'm good at math because God gave me that mind. If you are a fast runner, you acknowledge the speed.
So if someone compliments you, you sang that song beautifully, the humble response isn't, no, I sounded like a dying cat.
No. The humble response is simply, thank you. You accept the truth of the gift, but you acknowledge the giver. You don't let it inflate your ego, but you don't deny reality either.
Living in truth. I like that. And speaking of living in truth, we have to talk about the UFC.
The pivot from high art to mixed martial arts, it was great.
It's the crossover episode we didn't know we needed.
Yeah.
But it makes so much sense in this context. So Pastor Roy takes us back to the early days of the UFC. And for anyone listening who only knows the modern, polished sport, the early days were the Wild West.
Oh, it was chaos. No weight classes, no rules, just style versus style. And Pastor Roy points out something really important about that era. It was dominated by hype.
The Kung Fu Pandas, as he called them.
Right. You had guys coming in claiming they had death touches or secret energy blasts. They believed their own mythology. They thought they could knock a man out without touching him. That is the definition of pride believing a lie about your own power.
It's delusional self-sufficiency. I am so special I can defy physics.
Exactly. And then reality stepped into the octagon. The Gracie family arrived with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
And the visual here is so important. They didn't send the biggest, scariest guy in the family. They didn't send a giant.
No, they sent Royce Gracie. The sermon describes him as smaller, thinner, weighing about 155 pounds. He looks like an accountant compared to some of these sumo wrestlers and boxers he was fighting.
But he destroyed them.
He did, and the sermon explains why. He didn't win because he was stronger or had more magic. He won because he lived in reality. He understood leverage. He understood technique. He understood physics.
He knew that if he applied force in the right way, a 155-pound man could snap the arm of a 300-pound man.
Exactly. He didn't rely on hype. He relied on truth. And this is the core analogy for prayer.
Connect the dots for us. How is prayer like jiu-jitsu?
Well, think about it. Prayer is the ultimate act of submitting to reality. It is admitting I am small. I am the 155-pound guy in a cage with a giant problem. I cannot win this on my own strength.
So when we pray, we are tapping out of our own ego.
Yes. We are tapping out of self-sufficiency and tapping into God's leverage. We are admitting that we need a power greater than ourselves to move the obstacle.
I love that. Prayer is leverage. It's not magic. It's spiritual physics.
And just like in the UFC, the guy who relies on hype gets crushed. The guy who relies on leverage wins. Humility submits to reality. Pride gets knocked out.
So we've diagnosed the problem pride, we've defined the solution humility or living in truth, but now I want to get practical. Because sometimes I sit down to pray and I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm doing it wrong.
Pastor Roy anticipated that. He brought up a classic biblical case study from Luke chapter 18, the Pharisee and the tax collector. It's a study in body language and attitude.
This is the one where two guys go to the temple to pray, but they do it very differently.
Very differently. The Pharisee stands up tall, he's confident, and he basically reads his resume to God. I fast twice a week. I tithe. I'm not like these other sinners.
It's the Employee of the Month speech. Look at how awesome I am, God. You're welcome.
Essentially, that is pride. It's listing your accomplishments as if God owes you something. It's transactional.
And the other guy?
The tax collector. The sermon notes that he stands far off. He won't even lift his eyes to heaven. He beats his chest, and his prayer is one sentence. God, be merciful to me, a sinner.
No resume, no bargaining, just pure need.
And the result, the sermon reminds us, God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. The resume reader left empty. The man who admitted his bankruptcy left justified.
It really emphasizes that God isn't impressed by our stats. He's drawn to our dependence. He wants the reality, not the hype.
Right, so that's how to pray with total honesty about your need. But the next big question the sermon answered was when to pray.
Because usually we treat prayer as a last resort.
The break glass in case of emergency method.
Yeah, I've tried everything else, guess I'll pray.
Hmm.
But Pastor Roy points us to Nehemiah for a better model.
Nehemiah is such a great example of leadership. But the context is tragic, right?
It is. Nehemiah receives a terrible report. His homeland, Jerusalem, is in ruins. The walls are destroyed, the gates are burned, the people are vulnerable. It's a total disaster.
So what does he do? Does he call a committee meeting?
Does he start a GoFundMe?
No. And this is the key. The sermon asks, what was his immediate action? He didn't wait until he saw light at the end of the tunnel. He didn't wait until he had a 12-point strategic plan. He prayed immediately because the situation was out of his control.
I think that's where I get stuck sometimes. I feel like I need to figure out the solution before I bring it to God so I can present it like a proposal. Hey, God, here's the plan. Just sign off on line 3.
Which goes back to pride. We want to be the architect. Nehemiah's example teaches us to pray when we receive the bad news, right then and there, before the solution exists.
It's a reflex.
Exactly. Pastor Roy went into this rapid-fire list of player triggers to help us build that reflex.
Yeah, I jotted these down. He mentioned when we sin, obviously confession. When we see a need like seeing a harvest and praying for workers.
He also mentioned when we eat.
Even if we're really hungry. He joked about that, but it's actually a profound little pause.
It is. It's a moment to acknowledge provision. I didn't make this food appear. It was provided.
When we wake up. When our children come home, it's about weaving prayer into the fabric of the day, not just saving it for bedtime.
It's turning your life into an ongoing conversation with God.
Okay, we are heading toward the end, but we have to talk about the numbers. Because part 4 of the sermon dropped a statistic about the Bible that actually blew my mind. I had to double-check this.
The 7,000 promises?
7,000.
Yes. The sermon states that there are over 7,000 promises in the Bible. And if you break that down, Pastor Rory did the math for an average Bible of about 1,000 pages. That is roughly 7 promises on every single page.
7 per page. That completely destroys the argument of, I don't know what God wants for me, or I don't know what to ask for.
Exactly. The insight here is that we cannot claim ignorance of God's will. We are literally holding a book that is saturated with blessings and contracts that God has signed.
He cited a few key ones. Resist the devil, and he will flee.
Humble yourself, and he will lift you up.
Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you.
These aren't just nice refrigerator magnet sayings. They are contractual agreements God has made with his people. But, and here's the climax of the message, we have to actually activate them through prayer.
They don't happen automatically. You have to cash the check.
Right. And this leads to the final story Pastor Roy told, the unsent text. And honestly, this one hit me right in the gut. It's such a modern, relatable tragedy.
Yeah, I think we've all been there in some form. So picture this. Your cousin texts you, he's got ribs on the grill, a full barbecue. He invites you over.
The supply is there, the blessing is ready, the ribs are smoking.
Right, you see the text, you type out a reply, awesome, I'm coming. You are ready to go, but then you get distracted.
Maybe you're reading scripture or watching TV. Pastor Roy specifically mentioned getting caught up in a video game, PUBG or Fortnite. You're in the lobby, you start a match, and you forget to hit send.
Hours later, you look up, you're starving, your stomach is growling, you look at your phone, the text is there, typed out, but it was never sent.
So you missed the ribs. You went hungry, not because there wasn't food, but because you didn't confirm the connection.
The spiritual application is, well, it's haunting. We often have unsent prayers. We have the need. God has the supply, the ribs, the 7,000 promises. But we get distracted by life, by entertainment, by our own busyness, and we never actually send the prayer.
We draft it in our minds. We worry about it. We stress about it. We talk to our friends about it. But we don't pray it.
And as Pastor Roy emphasized, the tragedy isn't unanswered prayer. God promises to hear us when we call. The tragedy is unoffered prayer.
That phrase sticks with you, unoffered prayer. It means the help was available, the leverage of the Almighty was right there, but we starred in our pride or our distraction, and we missed out on the feast.
Wow. That really puts the why into perspective. It's not just a religious duty, it's about not going hungry when the banquet is ready.
Exactly.
Well, that wraps up the core of the evidence of faith. Prayer over pride. It's a lot to process, from the Louvre to the octagon to the barbecue, but it's so necessary.
It really is. The main takeaway is clear. Identify where pride is stopping you from asking for help. Prayer is the tool to lower pride and increase humility.
Absolutely. Now, if you are listening to this and thinking, I need to talk about this, or I have questions about how to actually do this in my own life, we have a next step for you.
Yes, you are invited to join a small group. They meet on Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m.
This is the perfect place to dive deeper, ask those hard questions in person, and actually find some community. It's hard to break pride alone. Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Don't miss it.
And of course, if you want to catch the latest sermon live, join Zion CC on Sundays. Services are at 9:00 a.m. and 11:00 a.m.
And hey, if you want to hear the full version of this sermon with all the nuances, the full UFC breakdown, and Pastor Roy's delivery, head over to the Zion CC YouTube page. Look for the video titled, The Evidence of Faith, Prayer Over Pride.
Highly recommend watching the original. Hearing Pastor Roy tell the stories adds a whole other layer.
Before we sign off, just a quick note on how we put this recap together. Zion uses AI tools to help summarize information, sermons, and common questions.
We work hard to keep everything accurate to the source, but AI can sometimes make mistakes or hallucinate details, so always go back to the source material if you're unsure.
Good reminder. So here is the final thought for you to carry into your week. Think about that unsent text.
What is one prayer you have drafted in your mind, worrying about a child, a job, a relationship, but you haven't actually hit send on?
Don't go hungry when the ribs are ready. Hit send today. Thanks for listening to Zion Recap on the Deep Dive. We catch you next time.